Hey everyone, and welcome again to another governance call for Celo's community. This is governance call number 11, and yeah, let's get started. The first stop we have for today's agenda is update on proposal 32 and 33. Proposal 32 is the Celo core contract release 5. It's currently being upvoted. It's in the approval stage, and it's soon gonna be hitting the referendum stage so people can start voting for it. And the same also applies to proposal number 33. Proposal number 33 is the Granda Mentor proposal, and it's also in the same status. It's soon going to be going to the referendum stage, so you all can start voting for this really soon. Yeah, and this is the status update. We also have a new CVP we're planning to introduce for governance really soon. I believe Mariano has a new PR for this CVP. Let me just display that one. New file. Yeah, so this is the one with the updated PR. Mariano, you want to go over it?
Yeah, happy to. So proposal is to increase the block target density from 0.5 to 0.8. That means that currently Celo implements its own version of EIP 1559. And so we have a max block size, but we are only targeting or using like 0.5, 50% of that block, you know? And if the block, we use more of that block, then gas fees or base fee, it's adjusted using that formula that you see on the screen. So that's kind of like an exponential growth of the base fee. So those are the current parameters. And what we are proposing is to change the target density or like the block utilization rate to 80%. The reason for that is that we believe that what we want to is to maximize transaction throughput with low gas cost. And so whenever you use more than the expected density or more than the expected target, you basically are going to skyrocket gas. So currently, right now, when you surpass that value, the target density, it increases by 25% the base fee or decreases by 25% on empty blocks. That's assuming like the full block or an empty block. Now, what it's important also to understand is that those periods where you have higher than the actual density are what we consider burst, and they are only short-lived because you can see that gas is going to skyrocket and to the point that it's going to match the actual supply, and the utilization is going too low because you are going to find less people willing to pay those kind of fees that are now much higher. So why 0.8? So what we're trying here to do is, again, maximize the part of the block that we can use while still keeping the mechanism in place, you know? One could alternative think, okay, why instead of doing that, duplicate the max block size? The problem with duplicating the block size, you know, and so now reaching like 50% of a much bigger block, is that it would be risky for the network to try to have those full blocks in terms of we need to maintain the 5-second average, and the block size is actually set to be at like the maximum number that we can sustain without further improvements on the code, which we are making, by the way, but this is important. And so we want to use more of that capacity, and that's why we have a 0.8. There is a risk that involves in this change, and if you want to go to the risk part, I can briefly explain that. So when we have something like 80%, we basically break the formula symmetry. No, so whenever you have a full block, you are going to like with the current parameters right now, it's you're going to increase gas by 10% on a full block, but an empty block will decrease gas by 40%. So that's like 4-to-1. No, so empty blocks have a much more weight than full blocks. This was still the case on 0.5, but much smaller. What that entails is that you can get like a validator cartel that would use that fact to drive the gas price minimum or base fee down. No, and what they will try to achieve by doing that is if you decrease the base fee, then the portion that actually goes to the validators increases, assuming that people are still paying the same total fee. So they could be motivated to do that. And you can compute the kind of size of the cartel that you need to do that. No, and with this 0.8, scroll down, please. It's around 50% or 16% of the actual validator set. So that's not a great number. We still think that it's a risk worth taking because, again, the benefit that we get is like now we can use much more of the block to actually drive more transactions. We also think that currently the profit that you would get from such an attack is actually minimal. If you take a look, you'll see that actually gas prices are at what it's said as the gas price floor, so are like at the minimum value they can ever be. And secondly, because if you try to perform such an attack, this is easily seen on the chain because you would need to generate artificially empty blocks when in a context where there's a lot of demand. No. So if we catch validators doing that, they definitely will lose reputation. With that, maybe their seat on the table, and also it's something that you could eventually slash them for using a governance proposal. And so that's kind of summary. And there's a forum post for further discussion. And all of this is basically a research that we did, based it and explanation on what this link on the bottom by Team Roughgarden. So this is a much more in-depth analysis of EIP 1559 analysis and what it does and how and what kind of risk it has. No, and we basically adapt that to Celo.
Cool. Yeah, so let me just copy paste the forum post for people who want to continue discussion. But if anyone has any question right now, feel free to ask Mariano. Oh, Merrick, I think you're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a quick question, and I just posted it to the chat as well. I think in the past we said that after the donut hard fork, we could safely increase the gas block limit to 30 million based on the kind of simulations and load testing that we did. Of course, 0.5 of 30 is less than 0.8 of 20. So maybe not as good, but definitely close. But just kind of curious, obviously this would mitigate the cartel attack. So curious if this was something we considered.
I don't remember that actual, like, we try with several values. Actually, we also try with 50 million, but we set on 20 as like what we consider a safe number. So I don't know if we reached.
That was before the donut hard fork, right? That was using the changes before the donut hard fork, if I remember correctly.
There's a change. So there are two changes that happen in the recent times. One, or planning two. One is actually what we call like a block context. There's a CIP for that, which will, but it's not yet deployed, something that we expect to happen on the eHarf fork. I think maybe that's the case that you are speaking. I don't know if that was Donut. Well, Donut for sure. But then there is another thing that we brought like changes where from upstream, where now state access happens on linear time. Sorry, all one time, and so it's much faster to read. So, but that was also in a response for an attack that Ethereum suffers. So we could do more testing on that, and that's something that we, but nothing has changed significantly so that we could increase the block size number at this current time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so maybe I'm misremembering that 30 million number, or yeah. Either way, I'm supportive of change. Was just curious about that.
Yeah, I'll definitely check, but I don't remember as, yeah. I think what said 20, maybe 25 at some point. We were between those two. I never remember 20, but I can check. I'll check.
Awesome. Maybe you can give a status update, Mariano, on the forum post on what you find and stuff, as a follow-up to that question, so that everyone else can also read it. Anyone else have any more questions about the CVP?
Hey, I was just gonna ask if, Mariano, you would support making a change in the implementation of EIP 1559 for the gas price to like fall slower, like make the function kind of asymmetric, and whether that would help with the cartel issue.
No, I think that's definitely an idea. I'd say that we need to take that carefully to design like whatever the parameters you set works as expected. But that's definitely an interesting approach. You know, again, it's far more complicated than setting just a parameter. Of course, we need to change the formula and see how the formula behaves, and that it behaves well. But I guess for the rest, like what we're seeing is like, if you see the formula right now, it's like we get the delta between like target and actual density, and we multiply that by the speed. And that's the actual amount that we're going to either increase or decrease the gas price. But that's already, like the formula is symmetric, but the result is not symmetric. And you could, and if you are not in the middle, so delta to the full, it's only 20%, but delta to the bottom is 80% in this case, then it's definitely asymmetric in how much you can go down and how much you can go up. So you could limit that, and that's definitely an idea, but we haven't explored that in detail, but definitely something that we're worth doing.
Great.
Any other questions, anyone? On the proposal. So I think the only three things missing before submitting is filling up the verification, but I think that should be okay. And is there an anticipated timeline, Mariano, when you want to propose this on chain?
Yes, to me, the moment we are, you tell me in terms of process, to me would be ASAP as we can, right? But having that we have enough time, or it's according to the process.
Yeah. So the process normally within CLAB specifically, the process is to submit it on Tuesday. And we're going to cover in the agenda 2 proposals going to be submitted on Tuesday. So yeah, if you think it's ready by Tuesday and you want to submit it, I think that's a great way so we can do it. Otherwise, like whenever you find it ready. The reason is better on Tuesday because then you can execute it before the weekend, unless you want to execute it on the weekend and stuff. But like that's why people try to do on Tuesday so that by the time it's ready for execution, assuming it passes, you can do it before the weekend. But yeah, if there's no more questions, feel free to comment on the forum post. We're assuming that this proposal is going to go, whenever the team is comfortable submitting it and feels it ready, it should be really soon. And yeah, if there's no more questions, I'm going to go on to the next updates. I see Albert here. I'm not sure if Albert from C Lab or just a random Albert.
Yep, it's Albert from C Labs.
Awesome. Before you came, I gave a brief update that proposal 32 and 33 for Grandamento are submitted on chain. They're gonna enter referendum soon. I didn't give any more updates, but I mean, maybe if you want, you can give like a brief highlight on what's happening and stuff, like it's moving, what the proposals are, if you like. Oh, I think you might be muted. Alrighty, I guess not. So the only two remaining proposals that haven't been submitted are CGP 33 and 34. This is going to be proposed by Toby. So 33, we covered it in a previous governance call, activate dynamic voting reward weight adjustment factor. And the other one is CGP 34, which is increase the target voting gold fraction from 50% to 60%. So there's a lot of discussions about them in relation to the Celo epoch reward. They will be submitted on Tuesday, and it should be scheduled to hit referendum stage on Thursday. So yeah, this is the only other update on governance for what is being submitted by next week. Does anyone have any questions about the proposals? So two are currently on chain, gonna hit referendum stage, and two are coming on to being proposed on Tuesday, and one is really soon, either on Tuesday, maybe after Tuesday. And that's the kind of update that we have for the governance side. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, yes, that's the dynamic. They're going to make it dynamic for the rewards, and then they're going to move from 50 to 60. They're the two proposals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I have a mic on. Were you talking about CGP 33, the dynamic voting yield one?
In my previous question or currently?
Yeah, the CGP 33 should be hitting voting soon, I believe, and that's to adjust the change the adjustment factor for Celo rewards. It's a pretty long CGP, but it's to make it a bit more dynamic, basically, for changing the supply that's emitted to match sort of our target emission schedule.
Cool, thank you, Albert. Yeah, and Albert, my previous question, I realized the confusion is because there's CGP 33 and proposal 33, which are two different proposals, but that's, I think, a function of when you submit something on chain, it has a different number than the draft. I was referring to Grandamento, given that, you and Trevor worked on it. I'm kind of curious if you folks want to give like any kind of highlight on Grandamento, given that it's going to hit referendum tomorrow.
Yeah, some more updates on Grandamento. I think the changes from last time is we have a list of multi-sig holders that are going to be part of the multi-sig here now, and then some different parameters for this, such as that the period the vote is open for, an imposed spread value of 0, for instance, to try to speed up the creation of supply, and then some of these more detailed parameters that you can dig into that kind of limit the upper bounds of the kind of deviations of price during the time that it's being proposed.
Awesome. All right. I think this covered everything that we have on the call. Any final question before we all hop off? Good. We assumed it was going to be a short call because it was kind of last minute, but we wanted to give a highlight on what's being proposed. Anyone had any final questions?
Yeah, sorry to be that annoying person who joined late, but just on that change to the block density, just a very brief description on why that's important, and just to confirm it's kind of a technical update, or is it very big impact? It doesn't seem so from what I read, but I don't understand this well.
I haven't looked in detail at the CGP, but I think I know what it's about. So originally, Trevor, if you are online, you can confirm or deny. So we've always had the mechanism to adjust epoch rewards to track a target amount of locked gold. So compared to the total supply of Celo. So for example, 50% of the total supply of Celo being locked would be like 0.5. At the moment, I think this mechanism is disabled, and the idea is that voter rewards would be adjusted. That the idea is to be able to adjust the voter rewards up or down depending on whether the amount of locked Celo is below or above the target. And
so Tim, sorry, I think I actually understand that one. That's 33. Okay. The dynamic. I was asking about 39, which as is open here. The block target density from 0.5 to 0.8 around to increase the throughput. I just wanted to understand, is throughput like a big limit, so this needs to be done urgently? Is it a big change? It seems like it's a small change.
I'll let Mariano.
So I guess to paraphrase, your question is like, why do we need the throughput, or if the change actually is simple or not?
Is it a big change, and why is it needed?
The change is actually very simple. It's changing a parameter in a smart contract. So there's a gas price minimum smart contract that computes the gas price minimum or base fee. And we are changing a parameter from 0.5 to 0.8. So that would change and change the change the computation. Why do we need it? It's, I think we are always trying to maximize like a number of transactions that we can sustain. Currently, I wouldn't say like actually right now it's definitely a problem, but this is something that has been in our minds for quite some time, because we felt like basically imagine that you have like this machinery that can go, or this car that can go a certain velocity, and by choice you are just choosing to go half the speed all the time, and that's probably how we see it, because we set a block gas limit that kind of defines our max velocity, but we purposely set it to 0.5. So it was always kind of like, hey, we are just leaving resources out that without utilizing them with no real benefit, and so that's why we started to change this. At the same, we also expect to demand to increase, but that's when that's going to happen in time.
And why not set it to 1?
Because if I set it to 1, then it means that I will disable the IP in 1559. I would kind of like disabling that process. So we wanted to keep like the best of both worlds. So have the ability to have like this new kind of gas market where it's not just a first price auction, but at the same time try to use as much of the blocks space that we can. No, I think there's a big difference. I've shared that on the forum post, which in, I guess, how you see a parameter set at Ethereum, no? Because Ethereum actually is limiting the block size for other reasons. So it's not like they can sustain small periods of time where they go double that block size. That's not really an issue. But here we are actually trying to do the opposite. And so that's why also, like, I don't think the same values and the same value for parameters makes sense for us.
Thanks.
No worries.
All righty. Thank you, Ronan, for really good questions. If anyone had any more questions, going once, going twice. All righty. So I think we can start. Let me stop sharing. All right. I think we can safely end this call. Yes. So thank you all for another awesome governance call. This one was a short one, but we covered like 5 different proposals, 2 already on chain, and going to the referendum stage, and 3 destined to be proposed relatively soon. And yeah. We can continue the conversation on the forum post for each separate CVP. And thank you all and take care. Bye, y'all.